I was sitting in my car with the engine off, watching my own home light up like a lantern in the dark. From where I'd parked, half a block down, under the old oak tree at the bend of Lakeshore Drive, I could see everything. The white tents glowing against the November sky. The strings of lights Walter had always wanted to hang in those birch trees, now finally there, finally lit for someone else's party. The silhouettes of people moving behind the tall windows, glasses raised, heads thrown back in laughter. 142 people were celebrating inside my house tonight, and my name was not on the guest list. My phone sat in my lap, the screen already open to the number I'd saved 2 days ago, Lake Monroe County Sheriff's Department. I told myself I was saving it just in case, just so I'd have it. The way you keep an umbrella in your trunk even when the forecast says sunny. My hands were steady. That surprised me. I would have expected them to shake. I'm 69 years old, a widow, a woman who still tears up watching old home videos on Sunday afternoons. But my hands were perfectly, eerily still. I looked at the house one more time. Walter's house. Our house. "This is for us, Dot," he used to say, standing in the unfinished frame with sawdust on his boots. "So when we're old, we'll have somewhere beautiful to be old in." I pressed call, but I'm getting ahead of myself. To understand why I was sitting in that car on a Friday night in November, you have to go back 3 weeks. You have to go back to a Tuesday afternoon when I was watering my geraniums on the balcony of my apartment in Columbus, thinking about Walter, the way I always do on Tuesdays, because Tuesdays were our day. And my phone rang with a name I didn't entirely trust. Brittany, my daughter-in-law, my son Nathan's wife of 3 years. I want to be fair when I describe Brittany Hargrove, née Caldwell. She is 36 years old, beautiful in that very particular way that photographs well. Sharp cheekbones, honey blonde hair that always looks professionally blown out, a smile that arrives just a half second too late to be entirely genuine. She is a lifestyle influencer with 32,000 followers on Instagram, which I know because my friend Carol showed me how to look people up. Brittany posts photos of expensive brunches, weekend trips, and, I would later discover, my lake house, which she refers to in her captions as our happy place and home sweet home. In the 3 years she'd been married to my son, Brittany had never once called me just to talk. She called when she needed something, and she called me Mom, only in those moments. The word deployed like a key, unlocking whatever door she needed opened. So when I saw her name on my screen that Tuesday, I hesitated. Then I answered because she was married to my son, and Nathan loved her, and I had spent 3 years trying to build something with this woman. 3 years of reaching across the distance she kept carefully maintained between us. I was not ready to stop trying. "Mom," her voice was warm that afternoon, almost genuinely warm. "Do you have a minute?" "Of course, Brittany. What's going on?" I wanted to talk to you about something. My birthday's coming up, November 28th. I'm turning 36 and Nathan wants to do something special. A pause. I could picture her the way she always stood when she was choosing her words. One hand on her hip, head tilted slightly. "We were thinking about your lake house, Mom. It is just so stunning out there. The water, the property. Would you consider letting us use it? Something intimate. Close family, a few friends. Nothing crazy. Intimate, family. 2 words. Small, ordinary words. But I clung to them the way you grab a railing on an icy porch. Family meant I would be included. Family meant this was a chance. Maybe the chance I'd been waiting for. To finally sit across the table from this woman and find our way to something real. Something that didn't feel like 2 strangers performing the role of mother-in-law and daughter-in-law for Nathan's benefit. "How many people are you thinking?" I asked. "Oh, something small. 30, 35 at the most. 35 people in a house that comfortably holds 80. "Of course," I said. I said it too quickly. I knew it even then. "The house is for family. Do you need help with anything? I could drive up a few days early, get everything ready." "Mom, you are so sweet." And then, with that perfect timing she had, the requests began arriving. Did I know a good catering company in the area? And what about tent rentals, just in case of rain? And flowers. Something elegant, but not too traditional, you know what I mean? I knew what she meant. I said yes to everything. That night I called Nathan. "Son, I'm so glad you're having Brittany's party at the house," I said. "It's going to be beautiful out there this time of year." "Yeah, Mom. His voice had that particular flatness it gets when he's distracted, when he's half somewhere else. "Thanks for doing this. It means a lot." "It's not doing anything, Nathan. It's sharing what's ours." "Right. Yeah." A pause. "Hey, I've got a meeting in 10. Can we talk later?" He hung up before I could tell him I loved him. I stood in my kitchen for a moment after, phone still warm in my hand. Then I put it on the counter and went back to my geraniums. I remember thinking as I set down the phone, this is going to be the thing that finally brings us together. Brittany and me. A shared project. A house made beautiful for a celebration. I remember thinking that right up until the moment it wasn't true anymore. I should tell you about the house. About Walter. Walter Hargrove was an engineer. The kind of man who could look at a hillside and see a foundation. Who could stand in an empty field and visualize everything that could be built there. He worked for a construction firm in Columbus for 26 years, 14-hour days, Saturdays included. He was not a man who complained. He was not a man who spent money easily or accumulated things he didn't need. But he had one dream, one singular, stubborn dream. And for 18 years, we saved every dollar we could toward it. A house on the water. We found the lot on Lake Monroe in the summer of 2002. 2.5 acres right on the shoreline, with old oak trees and a little dock that needed rebuilding. We stood there in the August heat, and Walter held my hand and said nothing for a long time. Then he said, "This is it, Dot." And I knew he was right. We bought the land in 2003. Walter designed the house himself. Large windows facing the water so the light came in all day, a wide wraparound porch, a kitchen big enough for the big holiday meals we planned to have, rooms for the grandchildren we hoped would come. We built it slowly, carefully, the way you do when every board matters because you paid for it yourself. When we finally moved our furniture in the fall of 2004, Walter sat down on the porch steps with a cup of coffee and didn't say anything for nearly an hour. I sat beside him. The lake was silver in the late afternoon light. "We did it," he finally said. "We did it," I agreed. He passed away 4 years ago. His heart, his doctor said. Too many years of too much work. He was 68 years old and he died in the spring when the rose bushes I'd planted along the south fence were just beginning to bloom. I think about something he said to me the summer before he died. We were sitting on the porch on a Saturday morning. He had his newspaper, I had my coffee, and out of nowhere, no conversation leading to it, he put the paper down and said, "Dot, promise me something." "What?" I said. They said, "Promise me that after I'm gone you won't let anyone make you small. You're not a small person. Don't let anyone treat you like one." I hadn't known what to say. It had come out of nowhere. "Walter, you're 61. You're not going anywhere." "I know. I just want to hear you promise." "I promise," I said. We went back to our coffee and his newspaper. We never talked about it again. He died 3 years later. The house is worth $480,000 now. But what it's worth to me has no number. I drove up to Lake Monroe on a Monday, 6 days before the party. I had asked for the week off from the embroidery class I teach at the Columbus Community Center. Not because I needed the money, though the extra income never hurts, but because those women and their Tuesday and Thursday morning classes are part of what keeps me going. They are part of my life. I don't give that up lightly. But this was important. This was family. The house had been empty since August. When I opened the front door, the smell of closed rooms hit me. That particular staleness that accumulates in houses that aren't being lived in. A smell of dust and still air and time. Cobwebs in the upper corners of the ceiling. A film of gray on the kitchen counters. The garden visible through the back windows, overgrown and colorless. The rose bushes gone leggy from a summer without pruning. I rolled up my sleeves. For 2 full days I cleaned. Not the surface cleaning of someone getting a rental property ready. The deep cleaning of someone who loves a house and wants it to be right. I washed the windows with vinegar and old newspaper the way my mother taught me. I got down on my hands and knees to scrub the grout in the kitchen floor. I shook out every curtain on the porch and beat them against the railing until the dust stopped rising. My knees hurt by the end of the first day. My back was stiff by the end of the second. I kept going. The garden took most of the third day. I pruned the rose bushes, the coral ones I planted in 2006, the climbing white ones along the fence that Walter used to call Dot's project, raked the leaves from the entire lawn, and cut the grass with the old mower that rattled and complained but still ran. When I finished, the garden looked the way it used to look on summer weekends when Walter and I would sit on the porch with our coffee and watch the sun come up over the water. On the fourth day, I made phone calls. The tent company, 3 white structures, metal frames, chiffon curtain panels for the sides. $1,100. I put it on my debit card. The electrician for the string lights. Hundreds of small warm white bulbs that Brittany had specified for the trees. $750. The sound system rental. Speakers, a wireless microphone, the kind of setup a DJ could connect to. $520. The florist in the next town over, a woman named Patricia who'd done flowers for half the weddings in the county. Coral roses, white hydrangeas, dark green eucalyptus. Table arrangements and garlands for the tent posts. $1,400. White linen tablecloths. $320. Decorative candles, gold votives, additional small decor items Brittany had texted me photos of. $180. I kept a running total in the small notebook I carry in my purse. Walter's habit. He always said, "Dot. If you don't write it down, it didn't happen." By Thursday evening, I had spent just over $5,200. From the savings account where I keep what I earn from my embroidery class, my independence money, Walter used to call it. The money that is entirely mine. I had not yet been asked to contribute a single dollar. I had simply done it because it was my house and I loved my son and I wanted this to be beautiful, and no one had told me not to. Brittany and Nathan arrived on Thursday afternoon. I heard the car, that white BMW that Brittany leases, and went out to the porch to meet them. Nathan was driving. He looked tired in the way he always looked tired now, a permanent low-grade exhaustion behind his eyes. He gave me a hug that lasted about 2 seconds and said, "Mom, the place looks great." And then his phone buzzed and he looked at it. Brittany got out of the passenger side in a cream-colored silk blouse and dark jeans and those large sunglasses she wears even in November. She walked past me into the house without a proper greeting, and I followed her, trailing behind in my gardening clothes, hands still rough from 3 days of outdoor work, while she conducted her inspection. She ran a finger along the living room shelf. She checked the bathroom grout. She walked out to the garden and stood looking at the rose bushes with an expression I couldn't immediately read. "The roses are a little wild," she said. "Gives things kind of a rustic feel." Rustic. The roses I had spent an entire afternoon pruning. "The house smells a little closed up, too," she added, wrinkling her nose slightly. "Do you have any air freshener or maybe some candles?" "I'll go into town and get some," I said. "Lavender or vanilla?" "Neither. Something cleaner, more modern." She turned back toward the house. "And Nathan says the dock needs new boards. Can you call someone about that before Saturday?" I called someone about that. There was one other thing that happened on Thursday afternoon. A small thing, the kind you file away without quite knowing why. I was in the kitchen starting dinner when I heard Brittany on the back porch, on her phone. Her voice drifted through the open window. "No, everything is set. The location is gorgeous, honestly." Laughter. "The thing is, it didn't cost me anything. It's my mother-in-law's place. She handled everything. I just supervised." More laughter. I know, but that's how older women are. They like to feel useful." I stood at the stove with the wooden spoon in my hand, and I did not move for a long time. Through the window, I could see the little lights now strung in the birch trees, all those hundreds of small, warm bulbs, reflected faintly in the dark surface of the lake. Nathan walked into the kitchen looking for a glass of water. He saw my face. "You okay, Mom?" "It's just the onion," I said. He nodded and left. He didn't look closely enough to notice I hadn't been cutting any onions. I remember thinking of Walter's words then, briefly, like a light coming on in a back room. "Don't let anyone make you small." I pushed the thought aside. I told myself I was being sensitive. I told myself tomorrow would be different. I was wrong about that. The following morning, Friday, one day before the party, Stacy Owens arrived at noon. She was Brittany's event coordinator, 29 years old, professional in that efficient, brisk way of people who get paid by the hour to solve other people's problems, carrying a tablet and a leather portfolio, and wearing heels that sank slightly into the lawn as she walked. She and Brittany had clearly worked together before. She called Brittany Britt, and they moved through the property together with the ease of people who shared a shorthand. I was on the side porch, watering the potted mums I'd bought in town, Half listening, Stacy was reading through the guest list out loud, confirming names. And immediate family? For the seating chart? My parents, both sisters, their husbands, Brittany said. From Nathan's side, just Nathan. His dad passed away and his mom is here. She said it the way you'd say his mom is helping with setup. Casually, functionally. Stacy looked over toward me. Oh, so she'll be attending? 3 seconds of silence. No, Brittany said pleasantly. She's not on the guest list. She's been helping with coordination. She's already done her part. The watering can slipped from my hand. It hit the porch boards with a hollow thud. I picked it up without thinking, the way your hands do things while your mind goes somewhere else entirely. Stacy looked at me with an expression I recognized. The look of someone who knows something is wrong and has decided, for professional reasons, not to say so. But she owns the house? She does, Brittany said. But she understands, right, Mom? She didn't turn to look at me. It's a specific crowd. Young professionals, industry contacts, influencer connections. You know how it is. Everyone looked at me. Stacy with discomfort. Brittany with the patient, slightly bored expression of someone waiting for a formality to conclude. I had spent $5,200. I had worked for 6 days until my knees and back and hands gave out. I had driven up here 4 times. I had called 12 vendors, signed 4 contracts, purchased 200 votives, and 15 linen tablecloths, and 3 tent structures that were right now standing in the garden I had pruned with my own hands. I understand, I heard myself say. My voice was very calm. I did not recognize it as my own. Brittany's shoulders relaxed. You're such a sweetheart, Mom. Now could you grab us some water? It's warm out today. I walked into the kitchen. I set the watering can on the counter. I put both hands flat on the cool surface of the kitchen sink, and I stood there for a moment with my eyes closed. She's already done her part. 69 years old. A widow. A woman who had loved this house for 20 years, who had worked herself raw for 6 days to make it beautiful for someone else's party, who had said yes every time she'd been asked, and several times she hadn't been asked, who had wanted nothing more than to sit at a table in her own home and feel for one evening like family. Already done her part. I straightened up. I dried my hands on the dish towel. I went back outside with 2 glasses of water. And then, while Brittany and Stacy reviewed timelines and confirmed photographer bookings, I went to the dining room table where Stacy had left her leather portfolio. The cover was open. On top, slightly askew, as if it had been shuffled in a hurry, was a single sheet of paper. Lake Monroe County Event Permit Application. In the field marked Property Owner/Event Responsible Party, Brittany Ann Hargrove. In the field marked Relationship to Property, Personal Residence/Primary Homeowner, the date she had signed it, 3 weeks ago. 2 days after I had said yes on the phone. I took out my phone. I photographed the document. I put my phone back in my pocket. Then I went upstairs to the small bedroom, the smallest one, the one I'd been given because the other 3 were reserved for VIP guests. And I sat on the edge of the bed that Walter and I had shared on every summer weekend for 15 years. And I called Garrett Sullivan. Mr. Sullivan, I said when he answered. It's Dorothy Hargrove. I'm going to need your advice on something, and I'm going to need it tonight. Before I made the call to the sheriff's department, the one that would bring the blue and red lights sweeping across the lake, there was this earlier call, the one that made everything that followed possible. Garrett Sullivan had been my lawyer since Walter died. He was the one who sat across from me in his quiet office on Broad Street 4 years ago, the week after the funeral, and walked me through the will with the careful patience of someone who understood that the woman across from him was not really there yet. He was 61 years old, silver-haired, the kind of man who wore the same style of navy suit every day and made you feel, simply by the steadiness of his voice, that things could be handled. He picked up on the second ring. Dorothy, everything all right? Not entirely, I said. I was sitting on the edge of the small bedroom's bed, the photo of the permit document open on my phone screen in front of me. Through the wall, I could hear Brittany and Stacy still talking on the back porch, the rise and fall of professional voices, the occasional laugh. I need to ask you about something legal, something I found today. I told him everything, not the emotional version, the facts. Brittany's call 3 weeks ago, the verbal agreement. 6 days of preparation, $5,200 of my own money, no written contract, no signed authorization. The guest list, then the permit. I read him the exact language from the photo. Property owner/event, responsible party, Brittany Ann Hargrove. Relationship to property, personal residence/primary homeowner. There was a pause on his end, the sound of a chair shifting. She signed that to the county, he said. It wasn't a question. 3 weeks ago, 2 days after I agreed to let them use the house. Dorothy, that's a false declaration on a public document. In Indiana, that's a Class A misdemeanor. It's not a technicality. Can she use it to claim any rights to the property? Not under current circumstances. Adverse possession in Indiana requires 10 continuous years of open use. You're nowhere near that. But the document creates a paper trail I don't like. If she filed taxes referencing this address, applied for a loan, or continued to represent herself as owner in any official capacity, she calls it her house on Instagram, I say, Sy said. 32,000 followers, posts going back 8 months. Sullivan was quiet for a moment. Your options are straightforward. You are the sole legal owner of that property. Any verbal permission you gave can be revoked at any time, for any reason. If you revoke it, everyone on that property is trespassing. An event of that size. You said 142 people? That's what the catering confirmation said. 142 people in a private residence without a fire marshal permit is a separate violation. Minimum $2,500 fine, mandatory shutdown. Does she have a fire marshal permit? Based on what you've described, almost certainly not. I looked out the small bedroom window. The lake was dark now, the last of the daylight gone. In the birch trees, the string lights glowed. Soft, warm, beautiful. Walter had always said he wanted to put lights in those trees at Christmas. We never got around to it. Not tonight, I said, but stay available. I'll keep my phone on. Dorothy, he paused. Walter would not have stood for this. No, I said, he would not have. That night, after Nathan and Brittany had gone to bed, I sat at the kitchen table with my reading glasses and my phone and looked at Brittany's Instagram properly for the first time. The most recent post, a photo of my white tents set up in my garden, backlit by the late afternoon sun. Caption, setting up our dream home for the most magical night, Lake House Living, #birthday. Weekend, #Lake House Living, #my happy place. Posted 4 hours earlier. The comments were in the hundreds. Your house is gorgeous. Goals, come visit anytime. Brittany responded to each one. Thank you, love. It really is our happy place. I scrolled back. 8 months ago, a photo of the back porch, the lake visible behind, 2 glasses of white wine on the railing. Caption, Sunday mornings at our lake house. There's nowhere I'd rather be. 6 months ago, a photo of my garden in summer bloom. My coral roses, my climbing whites, the beds I'd planted and tended since 2006. Caption, home is where the lake is, #Lake House Life. 4 months ago, Brittany sitting on the porch steps, Walter's porch steps, the ones he built himself from cedar, looking out at the water. Caption, this view never gets old, our little piece of heaven. Not once in any post was my name mentioned. To Brittany's 32,000 followers, this was her property, her lake house, her little piece of heaven. And then I saw the comment that made my stomach go cold. On a photo from 2 months ago, a woman named Stacy Owens had commented, beautiful property, Britt. If you ever think about renting it out for events, call me. It would be perfect for weddings. Brittany's reply, ha ha ha, maybe someday. For now, I'm keeping it all to myself. But you never know. Keeping it all to herself. Walter and I had not bought this house, so Brittany Caldwell could keep it all to herself. Walter had not worked 14-hour days for 18 years, had not come home with his hands destroyed and his boots full of sawdust. For this, I picked up my phone again, opened my photos, found the image of the permit document. Brittany Ann Hargrove, primary homeowner. This had been signed 3 weeks ago, before I'd bought a single candle, before I'd made a single phone call, before I'd spent a single dollar. 2 days after I'd said yes. She had been planning this. I didn't sleep well that night. I was up at 5:30, sitting at the kitchen table with my coffee before the sun came up, watching the lake go from black to gray to the pale silver of early morning. A heron stood motionless on the dock, the kind of thing Walter would have made me come look at, and I watched it alone and felt his absence the way you feel a missing tooth with your tongue. Constant, specific, irreducible. At 7:15, Nathan came downstairs. He was wearing the blue plaid flannel I'd given him for Christmas 2 years ago, and for just a moment, standing in the doorway of the kitchen with his hair still uncombed, blinking against the light, he looked so much like his father at 40 that I felt the breath go out of me. "Morning, Mom." He poured himself coffee. "You sleep okay?" "Fine," I said. He said. "Sit down, Nathan. I want to talk to you." He sat. He wrapped both hands around his mug the way Walter used to, that same gesture. Sometimes I wonder how much of our parents lives in our hands without our knowing. "Am I invited to this party?" The directness of it seemed to catch him off guard. He set the mug down. "Mom, I'd like a straight answer." He looked at the table, at his coffee, at the window, everywhere but my face, and I recognized that. I had seen it since he was 7 years old and had broken something and didn't want to tell me. "It's complicated," he said. "Nathan, am I on the guest list or not?" A long pause. "No." One word, short, final, dropped onto the table between us like a stone. I had already known. I had known since Stacy had looked at me with that uncomfortable expression on the porch yesterday. But hearing it from my son, in my own kitchen, on the morning of the party, it was a different kind of knowing, the kind that lives in the body rather than the mind. "I spent $5,200, I said. My voice was level. I had decided sometime in the sleepless hours before dawn that I would be level. I worked 6 days. I drove up here 4 times. I hired every vendor, coordinated every delivery, cleaned this house from top to bottom. And I'm not invited." "Mom, please don't." "I'm not making a scene, Nathan. I'm stating facts. Is Brittany aware of how much I spent?" "She knows you helped." $5,200 from my savings. "Has she offered to reimburse any of it?" His jaw tightened slightly. "She assumed you were doing it because you wanted to." "And did you correct that assumption?" Silence. "She has a vision for how she wants this event," he said finally. "Her industry contacts are coming. Influencers, business connections. She wants a specific atmosphere. And I don't fit the atmosphere. It's not about fitting." "Nathan." I waited until he looked at me. "She told me yesterday, in front of her coordinator, that I had already done my part, like I was a contractor, like I was hired help who'd finished the job and needed to clear the site." He flinched. Small, the kind of flinch you suppress before it reaches your face, but I've been reading Nathan's face for 40 years. "She didn't mean it like that." "How did she mean it?" He got up from the table, walked to the window with his coffee, stood looking out at the garden, at the tents, the lights, all of it, with his back to me. "If I push back on this," he said quietly, "she'll cancel the whole thing. She'll say it's ruined. She'll what, Nathan?" A long pause. "Make things very difficult," he said. I looked at my son's back. 40 years old, 6 feet tall, built like his father, standing at the window of the house his father built, afraid of his wife. "Are you afraid of her?" "I'm not afraid. I just want to keep the peace. And my peace," I said. "Does that count for anything?" He didn't answer. Brittany appeared in the kitchen doorway then, champagne-colored robe, hair loose, entirely put together even at 7:30 in the morning. She looked between us with that expression she had, pleasantly alert, watching for information. "Everything okay in here? I heard voices." "Fine," Nathan said immediately. "Just talking." He had become a man who said fine when things were not fine. When had that happened? Which Tuesday morning had I missed? Brittany smiled at me. "Mom, the catering team arrives at noon. I was thinking it might be easier for everyone if you weren't around for the setup. Maybe drive into town, get some lunch, walk around a little. Come back Sunday when everything's wrapped up." "You're asking me to leave my house," I said. "I'm asking you to give us room to work. It's more efficient." I looked at Nathan. He was looking at his coffee. "Was this Nathan's idea too?" I asked. "We discussed it together," Brittany said smoothly. "Didn't we, babe?" Nathan said nothing, which was, I had come to understand, how he agreed to things he knew were wrong. "I'll go," I said. I stood up, smoothed my slacks, picked up my coffee cup and rinsed it at the sink. "But I'll be back?" Brittany's smile widened with relief. "You really are the sweetest, Mom. Thank you for understanding." I picked up my purse and my car keys from the hook by the door. the hook Walter had installed in 2005 because he said I was always losing my keys, and I walked through the living room toward the front door. On my way through the dining room, I stopped at the table. Stacy's leather portfolio was there, exactly where she'd left it the day before. I opened it. The permit was there, and beneath it, things I hadn't seen the day before, filed underneath when Stacy reorganized her papers. A photographer's contract, $2,200, signed by Brittany. Property listed as Hargrove Private Residence, 14 Lakeshore Drive. A DJ services agreement, $1,100. Same property description. A premium open bar quote, $2,800. Signed and approved by Brittany. Every single document. My house described as her private residence. I took out my phone, photographed every page. Then I closed the portfolio, set it exactly as I'd found it, and walked out to my car. I drove to the end of Lakeshore Drive and turned left onto the county road. A quarter-mile down, where the old oak trees made a canopy over the gravel shoulder, I pulled over and parked. And then I sat for a moment and let myself feel it. Really feel it, without the performance of composure I'd been maintaining since yesterday afternoon. The humiliation of being called useful. The particular loneliness of watching your son choose the path of least resistance at your expense. The cold, clarifying shock of those documents. I let myself feel it for exactly 5 minutes. Walter always said I was allowed to feel things. I just wasn't allowed to stop there. Then I called Garrett Sullivan again. I found more documents, I said. Photographer contract, DJ agreement, open bar quote. All of them list my house as her private residence. Combined value over $6,000. A low sound on his end. This is a pattern, Dorothy. This isn't one careless mistake on a permit form. This is a consistent, documented representation of your property as hers. I know. Indiana Code 35-44.1-2-1. False informing. And if there's any financial benefit derived from the misrepresentation, if she's using the property description to build her social media business, which it sounds like she is, you start getting into territory that a DA could find interesting. I don't want to send my daughter-in-law to jail, Garrett. I know you don't, but she needs to understand that what she's done has consequences beyond an uncomfortable family conversation. A pause. What are you going to do tonight? I'm going to give her one chance, Isash said. One conversation, face-to-face, before anyone arrives. If she acknowledges what she's done and agrees to make it right, we handle it in the family. And if she doesn't? I looked out the car window. Through the trees, I could faintly see the roofline of my house. Then I make 2 phone calls, I said. Sullivan was quiet for a moment. I'll keep my phone on. I was about to start the car when I heard footsteps on the gravel. I looked in the rearview mirror. Frank Milligan was walking over from his mailbox. Frank was 72 years old, a retired county sheriff's deputy, our neighbor on Lake Monroe since 2007. He'd fished with Walter on Saturday mornings. He checked his mailbox every day at 11. I'd known that for 15 years. He bent down to look through my passenger window, his flannel jacket open despite the November chill. Dot, why are you sitting out here? I told him enough. The party, the guest list, the documents. Frank's face went through several expressions, each quieter and more serious than the last. They told you to leave your own property, he said. They asked me to go into town for the afternoon. That's the same thing, Dot. Dressed up nicer, but the same thing. He straightened up, hands in his pockets, looking toward the house. You know I was on the force for 28 years. If you need someone to stand with you tonight, as a witness, as someone who's known this was your property since the day you bought it, you've got me. I might need that, Frank. Then you've got it, he said. Simple as that. At 5 o'clock, the first cars began arriving. I had been parked under the oak tree for several hours. I had eaten the granola bar from my glove compartment. I had called Carol Whitfield, my oldest friend, and talked to her for 40 minutes. Not about the party, just about things, the way we'd been doing since 1987. I had reread my text messages from Nathan, 14 of them over the past 3 days, all logistical. Brittany says the florist is coming at 2, none of which asked how I was, or whether I needed help, or how my back was holding up after 6 days of physical labor. I thought about Walter. Specifically, I thought about that Saturday morning on the porch when he put down his newspaper and said, "Promise me you won't let anyone make you small." I had pushed those words away all week, told myself I was being sensitive, told myself tomorrow would be different, told myself that family required patience, and patience required silence. But sitting in that car, watching the first BMWs and Range Rovers pull into Walter's hand-paved lot, I understood something clearly for the first time. Patience is not the same thing as disappearing. I got out of my car. I walked back to the house through the side gate, my gate, with the latch Walter built, and I found Brittany in the garden, directing a last-minute adjustment to one of the tent configurations. She was in her party dress already, champagne-colored, very expensive. Her hair was perfect. She saw me and her face did something complicated. Surprise, annoyance, then the smooth professional pleasantness she used when she needed to manage a situation. "Mom, I thought you were going into town." "I was," I said. "I'm back." I opened my purse and took out my phone. I pulled up the photograph of the permit document, Brittany Ann Hargrove, primary homeowner, and held the screen toward her. "I'd like you to explain this to me," I said. Not to a coordinator, not to Nathan, to me, face to face. Brittany looked at the screen, then she looked at me, and in that moment, for the first and only time in 3 years, the pleasantness dropped entirely. No warm smile, no careful sweetness, just her face, unguarded, calculating, cornered. "Where did you get that?" "It was in Stacy's portfolio, on my dining room table, in my house." "Those were private, on my table, in my house." I kept my voice even. "Brittany, you signed a county permit identifying yourself as the primary homeowner of this property. You did it 3 weeks ago, 2 days after I agreed to let you use the house, before I'd spent $1, before I'd driven up here once." I put the phone back in my purse. This wasn't a paperwork error. You knew exactly what you were signing. For a moment, she said nothing. The party sounds drifted from the front of the house. Car doors, voices, the distant thump of the DJ doing a sound check. Then, "It was easier for the permit process." "That's not an explanation." "Mom," the warmth came back, effortful now, like a costume being put back on. "You're making this into something it isn't. It's a form." "It means something to the county of Lake Monroe," I said. "It means something to my lawyer." Something shifted in her eyes. "You called your lawyer." I did. She stared at me. Behind her, through the tent panels, I could see guests arriving in the garden. Women in cocktail dresses, men in blazers, everyone belonging to a world that had been carefully designed to have no room for me. "Tonight is very important to me," Brittany said, lowering her voice. "My career, my brand, a lot of it is built around this kind of event. I need tonight to go well. Can we please just talk about this tomorrow?" "No," I said. "We cannot." I looked at her for a long moment. This woman my son had chosen. This woman who had signed her name as the owner of my house before the echo of that phone call had even faded. "I'm going to give you one opportunity," I said. "Tell your guests tonight that this is my house. Acknowledge that I own this property and that I prepared it for this event. And apologize to me, in front of Nathan." Brittany stared at me. "Do that," I said, "and we handle the permit privately, between family." She was quiet for a long moment. Then she straightened her shoulders and lifted her chin. "I can't do that," she said. "It would change the whole narrative of the event." "The narrative of the event." I nodded slowly, the way you nod when someone has finally said the true thing underneath all the other things. "All right," I said. I walked back through the side gate to where Frank Milligan was already standing under the oak trees, hands in his pockets, watching the party lights come on one by one over the lake. I took out my phone. "Dot?" Frank said quietly. "Stay close," I said. I dialed the first number, Lake Monroe County Sheriff's Department, then the second, Lake Monroe County Fire Marshal's office. Then I stood under the oak trees with Frank beside me, and I waited, and I watched the lights of my house reflected in the dark water of the lake, and I thought about Walter on the porch steps the day we moved in, and I did not feel doubt, and I did not feel fear. I felt, for the first time in weeks, like myself. The sirens came from the North Road. I heard them before anyone inside did. First a distant wail, thin as a thread in the cold November air, then growing steadily, purposefully louder. Beside me, Frank shifted his weight with the unhurried posture of a man who had spent 30 years arriving at situations rather than fleeing them. Through the tent panels and the tall windows of my house, I could see the party in full motion. The dancing had started. The DJ's lights swept blue and gold across the white ceiling of the main tent, glasses raised, heads thrown back. 142 people at the absolute peak of an evening they believed had no ceiling. The first patrol car turned onto Lakeshore Drive, then the second, then the white SUV of the Lake Monroe County Fire Marshal's office, moving at that particular pace of official vehicles that are not rushing because they don't need to. Frank glanced at me. I gave a small nod. We walked toward the house. The music was still playing when the blue and red lights began sweeping across the lake surface. The first person to notice was one of the valets, a college-age boy in a black vest who froze when he saw the patrol cars, then looked at me with an expression caught precisely between professional concern and personal alarm. I walked past him without stopping. Inside the main tent, the DJ was the second to notice. The music faded, not cut, but slowed, trailing off the way music does when someone's hand finds the volume knob with deliberate caution. Conversations paused mid-sentence. Heads turned. The particular human instinct for detecting the arrival of authority moved through the crowd in a visible wave, shoulder to shoulder, glass to glass. Brittany was standing near the center of the garden when I came through the side gate. She was surrounded by friends, mid-laughter, when she saw the lights. I watched her face perform its rapid sequence. Confusion, recognition, calculation. And then she saw me walking toward the house, and the calculation sharpened into something else entirely. She was moving toward me when Sergeant Bobby Hartwell came through the front gate. He was about 52, compact, with a face trained over decades into professional neutrality. 2 deputies followed him. Behind them, 2 men from the fire marshal's office in dark jackets with reflective lettering across the back, carrying clipboards and flashlights. Hartwell looked directly at me. Not at Brittany, who was 6 feet closer to him. Not at Nathan, who had appeared from somewhere near the bar and was standing very still with a champagne flute in his hand. He looked at me. "Mrs. Dorothy Hargrove?" "Yes, sir," I said. "I'm the one who called." I opened my purse. Driver's license on top, then the property deed, then the homeowner's insurance documents with my name printed clearly across the header. Hartwell took them. He examined each one with the unhurried thoroughness of someone for whom paperwork is not a formality, but a foundation. He compared my photograph to my face. He read the deed. "You are the sole legal owner of this property?" "Sole owner. Since 2003 for the land, 2004 for the structure." He nodded. Then he looked up at the garden, at the tents, the lights, the catering tables, the 142 people who had grown very quiet. "And these people are here without your authorization?" "I am revoking any verbal permission I may have previously given," I said. "Effective right now. There was no written authorization at any point." Brittany arrived at my elbow. "Officer, this is a misunderstanding." "Ma'am." Hartwell raised one hand, not unkindly. "I'll get to you in a moment." He turned back to me. "Is there anything else I should know?" I reached into my purse and took out the folded photograph I'd printed at the drugstore in town that afternoon. The permit document, clear and legible. Brittany Ann Hargrove, primary homeowner. "This was submitted to Lake Monroe County 3 weeks ago," I said, "by my daughter-in-law. She identified herself as the primary homeowner of this property on an official event permit application." Hartwell took the paper, read it. His expression did not change, but something behind it did. A slight heightening of attention, the look of a man who has just reclassified a situation. He turned to Brittany. "Ma'am, is this your signature?" Brittany had gone the color of old chalk. She was still beautiful. She was the kind of woman who remained beautiful under conditions that would undo most people. But the beauty had a rigid, cornered quality now, like something behind glass. "It was easier for the permit process," she said. "They needed a local contact." "The form asks for the property owner," Hartwell said, "not an event contact." It was a misunderstanding about the form. Making a false statement on a county document is a Class A misdemeanor in Indiana, ma'am. He said it without drama, the way you state a fact that doesn't require embellishment. "I'm going to need you to come to the station tomorrow morning to give a formal statement." For the first time, the composure cracked. Not dramatically. Brittany was not a dramatic cracker. It was subtle. A faint trembling at her jaw, a brightness at the lower rim of her eyes. "Nathan," she said. Nathan was still standing with the champagne flute. He He had not moved or spoken since Hartwell arrived. He looked in that moment very young, younger than 40, younger than the man he'd been performing all evening in his pressed blazer. He set the champagne flute down on the nearest table. He walked toward us. He didn't look at me. The fire marshal's team returned from their inspection. "Sergeant," the senior inspector spoke quietly but clearly. 142 persons confirmed on site. No fire marshal permit on record for this address or this date. Temporary electrical rigging in 4 locations, none inspected. 1 primary emergency egress fully obstructed by the north tent structure. 2 secondary egresses partially obstructed. No fire extinguishers rated for the tent materials. The catering setup includes 2 propane-fueled warming stations without required safety clearance. Hartwell looked at Brittany. "Do you have a fire marshal permit for this event?" She shook her head. Very small movement. "The event is required to cease immediately. A citation will be issued." He looked at the inspector. "Amount?" $2,500 per county ordinance. Issued to the event organizer of record, Ms. Brittany Hargrove, per the permit application on file. I did not feel triumph at that moment. I want to be precise about that. What I felt was more complicated and more quiet. The sensation of standing on solid ground after a long time spent on something that shifted beneath my feet. Hartwell turned to address the guests. "Ladies and gentlemen, the legal owner of this property has withdrawn permission for this event. You are required to vacate the premises within 15 minutes. Anyone remaining after that time will be subject to trespassing charges. Please make your way to the parking area in an orderly fashion." For 3 seconds, nobody moved. Then everyone moved at once. The controlled social noise of a party collapsed instantly into the different, sharper noise of 142 people recalibrating. Chairs scraped, heels clicked, phones appeared in every hand. The DJ began hastily unplugging equipment. The catering staff exchanged glances with the resigned efficiency of people who have seen events end this way before. "Oh my God, is that the mother-in-law? I heard she paid for the whole thing and they didn't even invite her. It's going to be all over TikTok by midnight." I knew something was off when Britt said it was her house. The voices carried. I heard all of it, and I let it go past me like water. Frank appeared at my shoulder, quiet as a post. "You doing all right, Dot?" "Yes," I said, and I meant it. It took 20 minutes for the garden to empty. 20 minutes of headlights backing out of Walter's lot, of voices saying hurried goodbyes, of Brittany's friends shooting me looks that ranged from hostile to, in 2 or 3 cases, something uncomfortably close to impressed. The DJ loaded his van with the focused speed of a professional who bills by the hour. The catering team wrapped and labeled everything and asked me, very politely, where I would like them to leave the food. "The kitchen," I said. "Thank you." When the last car had gone, only 3 of us remained in the garden. Me, Nathan, and Brittany. Brittany was sitting in one of the white-covered chairs near the main tent, not crying anymore. She had moved past crying into something quieter and harder, the stillness of someone recalculating from scratch. Nathan stood a few feet from her, hands in his pockets, looking at the lake, the way his father used to look at the lake when he was working something out. I walked toward my son. "Mom." He turned before I reached him. His voice was tight. "How could you do this?" "How could I do this?" I said. Not a question, repeating his words back so we could both hear them. There were 142 people here. Her career is built on these relationships. "Nathan, your wife signed my house as hers on a legal document. She did it 3 weeks ago, before I'd spent $1 or driven up here once. It wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate. She made a bad decision. It was a pattern." I showed him the Instagram posts. The 8 months of our lake house and my happy place and our little piece of heaven. I showed him the photographer contract, the DJ agreement, the bar invoice. "One bad decision doesn't have a pattern, Nathan. This does." He looked at the screen. He looked at it for a long time. When he looked up, something in his face had shifted. The careful maintenance of a position he'd been holding for too long had started, finally, to give. "I knew it was wrong," he said. His voice was almost inaudible. "I knew it was wrong," he said again, as if saying it twice made it more real. "When she told me you weren't on the list, I told her it wasn't right, that it was your house. She said you'd be uncomfortable, that you wouldn't enjoy it anyway. that it would change the atmosphere. He stopped, and I let her convince me, because it was easier than the alternative. Easier than what, Nathan? The lights in the birch trees were still on. Nobody had turned them off. They cast their warm glow over the empty tables, the abandoned glasses, the centerpieces of coral roses and white hydrangeas that had been admired by 142 people who never knew who paid for them. Easier than being the person who disappoints her, he said. She doesn't take disappointment well. It becomes a whole thing. Days of it. And he stopped himself. I know how that sounds. It sounds like you've been managing her feelings at the expense of everyone else's, I said, including your own. He didn't answer, but his shoulders dropped. Not the casual loosening of a man relaxing, but the specific release of someone who has been carrying weight for so long they've forgotten what it feels like not to. I'm sorry, Mom, he said. Not because it went wrong tonight, because it was wrong from the beginning, and I knew it, and I said nothing. I looked at my son, my 40-year-old son, standing in the garden his father built. In the light of the strings his father had always meant to hang in those trees. I know you are, I said, but I need you to understand what was actually at stake here, Nathan. This isn't about a guest list. This is about a document that named someone else as the owner of this house. This is about what happens to your father's house if that kind of thing goes unchallenged. He nodded. He was listening, really listening, the way he hadn't in 3 years. What do you need me to do? He said. Right now, go home, take care of your wife, and think carefully about some things. He looked at Brittany, still sitting in her chair, looking at the lake, then back at me. Is this fixable? He asked quietly. You and me. Is it fixable? I reached out and put my hand on his arm, briefly, firmly. That depends on what you do next, I said. Not tonight, in the weeks after tonight. He understood. I could see it in his face. 3 days later, Garrett Sullivan called me at 8 in the morning. I was on the porch of the lake house. I had decided to stay for the week, to let the house settle back into itself, to sit with the water and the quiet and the particular quality of November light on Lake Monroe that I had always loved. Patricia the florist had come to collect her arrangements and had pressed my hand at the door and said, I heard what happened. Good for you, honey. And I had been more moved by those 4 words than by almost anything else that week. Dorothy, Sullivan said. Brittany's attorney called me this morning. Already. She's offering a private written apology, payment of the fire marshal fine, and $2,000 toward your expenses. In exchange, you agree not to pursue the false declaration charge and sign a statement characterizing the permit as a mutual administrative misunderstanding. I looked out at the lake. The heron was back on the dock, motionless as ever. What's her exposure if I don't accept? Class A misdemeanor false informing, up to 1 year, up to $5,000 fine. Civil suit for unauthorized use of property runs separate. Damages, legal fees, the social media monetization question gets complicated and potentially very costly for her. Sullivan paused. We'd win, Dorothy, comfortably. I have a counter, I said. 4 conditions, all 4, or we go to court. Go ahead. First, Brittany signs a notarized statement acknowledging that 14 Lakeshore Drive is my sole legal property, that she has no claim to it, now or in the future, witnessed and filed with the county. Reasonable. Second, full reimbursement of my documented expenses, not $2,000, $5,200. I have every receipt. Also reasonable. Third, she removes every Instagram post that implies this property belongs to her or Nathan, every one, within 72 hours of signing. And the fourth? I had thought about the 4th condition for 3 days. It was the one that couldn't be legally enforced. The one that required something from a person who had given me very little reason to expect it, but it was the one that mattered most. Brittany and Nathan come to this house in person, I said. Not by phone, not through lawyers, in person. And Brittany apologizes to my face, directly, with Nathan present. Silence on Sullivan's end. That one she'll push back on, he said. I know. She may refuse outright. Then we'll see each other in court, I said. And everything will be part of the public record when we do. A pause. Then, Dorothy, Walter was right about you. He told me once, we were talking at a fishing tournament the summer before he passed. He said, Garrett, Dot looks like the easy one in this marriage, but she's not. She's the one with the spine of steel. She just keeps it covered up so nobody feels threatened by it. I looked at the heron on the dock. Remarkable patience, herons. They understand that stillness is not the same thing as weakness. Tell her lawyer 4 conditions, I said. All 4 or none. That evening, my phone rang with an unknown number. I was in the living room with a cup of tea and the old quilt Walter's mother had made, watching the last color leave the sky over the lake. Mrs. Hargrove? Young woman's voice. Careful. This is Stacy Owens, the event coordinator. I hope it's okay that I'm calling. Stacy, yes, go ahead. I wanted to tell you, I'm the one who handed Sergeant Hartwell the copy of the permit for my portfolio. When I saw him reviewing documents, I thought you should know it was me. I wondered, I said. Thank you. I also wanted to apologize for not saying anything when Brittany told you that you weren't on the list. I knew it was wrong, but she was a paying client and I needed the commission and She stopped. I'm not asking you to excuse it. I just wanted to say it. I appreciate that, Stacy. A pause. There's something else. Something I think you should know. Her voice had shifted into something more careful. 6 months ago, she said, Brittany reached out to me about potentially renting the lake house for events. She wanted to know what the market looked like, what kind of revenue a lakefront property that size could generate for private event hosting. I was very still. She said she was working on getting full access to the property. Her exact words. I assumed it was her family's place and she was navigating some internal arrangement. I didn't think much of it at the time. A pause. But when I met you on Friday, when I realized whose house it actually was, Mrs. Hargrove, she was pricing out your house as a rental venue. 6 months ago, before she ever called you about the birthday party. 6 months ago. Before the phone call on that Tuesday afternoon when Brittany's voice was warmer than usual, and she used the words intimate and family-like keys, this had always been about the house. Stacy, I said, are you willing to put what you just told me in writing? Yes, she said immediately. I already wrote it down. I'll email it to you tonight. A pause. And Mrs. Hargrove, Brittany owes me $800 for that night. I filed a small claims notice this afternoon. I almost smiled. The particular way the universe occasionally balances its own books. Good for you, Stacy, I said. Brittany's attorney called Sullivan the following morning. After 2 days of back and forth that Sullivan described as vigorous, she accepted all 4 conditions. I believe what changed her mind was Stacy's written statement, which Sullivan quietly made sure her attorney knew existed. The prospect of a coordinator willing to testify, in writing and under oath, that Brittany had been planning to monetize my property 6 months before she ever asked permission to use it. That, I think, was what moved the 4th condition from impossible to inevitable. The notarized statement was signed and filed with Lake Monroe County 8 days after the party. Every Instagram post referencing my property was removed within 72 hours. The check for $5,200 arrived by certified mail. I deposited it without ceremony and transferred the full amount back into the savings account it had come from. And on a Sunday afternoon, 3 weeks after the party, a car pulled into my driveway. Nathan got out first, then Brittany. She was dressed simply, dark coat, hair down, no performance in any of it. She looked like a woman who had spent 3 weeks thinking about something very hard and had arrived at the far side of it, tired and changed in the way that real reckoning changes people. I met them at the door. Nathan hugged me, properly, the long kind. I held on for a moment and thought about the boy who'd been homesick at college and called me at midnight, and about how people can lose their way and still find it again if someone holds the light steady long enough. Brittany stood a few feet back. She looked at me with an expression I had never seen on her before, stripped of strategy, stripped of performance. Mrs. Hargrove, she said. Not Mom. I waited. I used you, she said. I used your house and your work and your money and your generosity, and I told myself it was just practical, that you didn't mind, that you liked being helpful. She stopped, started again. I knew that wasn't true. I knew it was easier to tell myself it was true than to look at what I was actually doing. The lake was visible behind her through the open gate. Walter's dock. The birch trees bare now in late November, no longer lit. I'm sorry, she said. Genuinely, not because of what happened at the party, because of what I did to you. what I was planning to do. I looked at her for a long moment, then I stepped back from the door. "Come in," I said. "I'll put some coffee on." That night, after they had gone, I sat on the porch for a long time. The lake was very quiet. A half moon hung over the water, throwing a broken silver path across the surface. The temperature had dropped, and I had the old quilt around my shoulders and my coffee cooling in my hands, and the particular feeling of a house that is yours, fully, uncontestedly yours, settling around you like something that recognizes you. I thought about Stacy's words, working on getting full access to the property, 6 months of quiet preparation, the Instagram posts establishing presence, the false permit establishing ownership on paper, the birthday party as the moment that would normalize everything, the house as Brittany's, Dorothy as staff, the transfer of reality accomplished so gradually that no single step would seem worth fighting. I thought about how close it had come. If I hadn't picked up that permit document, if I had gone into town as I was asked and come back Sunday to clean up, as I was expected, if I had continued, season after season, to be the woman who prepared the house and was then asked to leave before the party started. I thought about Walter on the porch steps the day we moved in, saying, "We did it, Dot." And I thought about that Saturday morning 3 years before he died, out of nowhere, when he put down his newspaper and said, "Promise me you won't let anyone make you small." I had made that promise. I had nearly forgotten it. But it had been there, underneath everything, waiting for me to remember. I looked out at the lake, at the dock with its boards that still needed replacing, at the birch trees, bare and patient against the November sky. My phone buzzed, a text from Nathan. "Mom, I was thinking, could I come up next weekend? Just me. I want to help fix the dock. Dad always said it needed new planks." I looked at the dock for a moment. The loose boards Walter had always meant to get to, the project that had been waiting for 4 years. I typed back, "Sunday morning, son. I'll make biscuits." His reply came in under a minute. "We'll be there. 8 a.m. Love you, Mom." I put the phone in my pocket. I pulled the quilt tighter. I looked at the lake. 69 years old. A widow. A woman who had spent 3 years reaching across a distance she hadn't created, trying to build something with a person who was, the whole time, doing a very different kind of building entirely. A woman who had, on a Friday night in November, with steady hands and a clear conscience, made 2 phone calls and taken her life back. "We did it, Walter," I said quietly. The water didn't answer, but the moon on the surface held steady, and the birch trees were dark and patient against the sky, and somewhere across the water, a loon called once, that long, clarifying sound. And I sat in my house, and I was exactly where I belonged.